talk through some things you can do to make yourself more competitive. And then we have people from Carnegie Mellon University, Texas A&M, and SAIS at Johns Hopkins. We're going to talk to you, as well as our own program in the form of Andrew Boughton right there. And then there will be opportunities for questions and answers. So we'll probably run up to maybe around an hour and a half or so, all told. So that's what we're going to do. I want to talk a little bit about why I'm doing this. So, oftentimes when I interact with students, there's an interest in graduate school, but I find there's not necessarily a lot of knowledge and information about the options that are available, what you actually do in graduate school, and how that and things like how you pay for that and how to apply. So instead of always just talking to individuals one-on-one, I decided that might make sense to try and do a group session to spread the word a little bit more effectively, and to hit students who are not necessarily in my classes. So in terms of, well, what do I know about this? So I've been a professor for a while. I myself went to graduate school. Perhaps more importantly, I ran our graduate programs in this department for about 5 years. So I know something about this, and I've worked with a lot of students over the years to get them into different kinds of programs. That said, what I'm going to say is based on my experiences and perceptions of things that have happened. Other views may vary, and that's fine. So understand that at some points I and the other presenters may disagree with something. It's just we have different perspectives and different experiences, and you should just buyer beware when we say something like that. Okay, so with that, let's talk a little bit about the kinds of graduate programs that exist. Broadly speaking, we can cover 3 major kinds of programs. So the first is a traditional MA program, second are PhD programs, and the third are, broadly speaking, international affairs or public policy programs. And these typically have different focuses and different goals and sort of different career endpoints. So a typical MA program is typically going to have academic courses that are broadly similar in the themes and the focuses to the courses you may have had as an undergraduate, but at a higher level. And there will typically be a good emphasis on research methods as part of that. PhD program, the goal is to make an expert researcher. So there's a lot of emphasis on teaching you how to do research alongside a substantive focus. So I remember when I first started my PhD program at Ohio State, who had not had a math class since high school, the first 2 classes, two of the first 3 classes I took were math or statistics classes. Why? Because they were laying a foundation for research methods being an effective researcher. The third kind of program are international affairs and public policy programs. These typically have a more practical orientation, and they're typically focused towards preparing someone for policymaking or government or nonprofit type jobs. Sometimes in a sort of informal way. You can sort of think of these as being kind of like comparable to like an MBA program, except for non-business kinds of jobs, right? I find that for a lot of undergraduates, these are actually things that they may be quite interested in terms of the kinds of jobs that they want. Why do I frame this that way? In part, I frame this because it's important to understand the kinds of jobs that these different programs prepare you for. If you want to be a professor, you have to do a PhD. If you're interested in being an academic, but maybe doing something else, you can also do a PhD, right? But that's kind of the one route into being, for instance, a professor. But if you want to work in government, you might seriously consider international affairs or public policy programs. MA programs can be useful for people who aren't sure they want the commitment of a PhD, or perhaps because they're interested in maybe improving their record before they apply for a PhD program. Or because they're just interested in the topic, which is a perfectly legitimate reason to do any of these kinds of programs. When should you go? So the answer to some extent varies, and not always in ways that people expect. So MA programs are absolutely open to people who have just graduated as a BA. And for many people, that's the best time to go. You can certainly wait a few years and then go, also very common. But MA programs are typically very happy to have you the fall after you graduate, for instance. PhD programs, it can vary a little bit. So if you want to take a few years off, that's okay. PhD programs are very typically quite happy to accept people who have good, very strong undergraduate qualifications. And that was the route, for instance, that I took. So I went to Ohio State immediately after I graduated from my undergraduate institution. I never got a master's degree at all. I could have at one point along the way, but I never paid the $50, so I didn't. It's not what I was there for. If you are not sure that you can get into a really good PhD program, you might want to do a master's degree first, an MA first. That can sometimes be appropriate. Some PhD programs, and I say in part because we're one of them, actually require an MA first. Those are often programs that have sort of an abbreviated timeline associated with them. But most PhD programs don't actually require an MA before you are admitted to them. And then when we talk about international affairs programs, you certainly most all of them that I know accept students right after graduating from an undergraduate degree program. But it's also true that in some of them, they kind of prefer people who've gone and worked in the field in some way before they do so. So it's kind of thinking about your position, thinking about a particular institution, thinking about what will make you a strong candidate. I've certainly had a number of students go to these kinds of programs straight from UCF, but I've also had students who went and did something else and then went a few years later. So the next thing I want to talk about is thinking about before you apply. And so this is maybe sometimes months and months before you apply. So first and foremost, you should talk to faculty members. Ideally, faculty members who know something about you, who may have taught you in a class, who have an understanding of what your interests are. Those faculty members will be a really good source of information about programs that you should think about applying to. And that's true whether you're talking about an MA program, a PhD program, although especially a PhD program, or an international affairs program. If you are thinking about applying to a PhD program, I would really, really strongly encourage you to find one or two faculty members who are kind of willing to shepherd you through the application process, because that will substantially improve your ability to succeed in getting into a good program. Because there's just a number of sort of nuances there that you as an undergraduate student will simply be unaware of. I encourage you to spend a good bit of time with program websites, getting to know them as well as you can. So what is the program designed for? How do they understand themselves? What do they think that they're preparing students to do? What do they think that their focuses are? What do the people who work in the program, what do the faculty do? What do they research? What kinds of things are they interested in? And then again, months and months before you think about applying, understand requirements for admission. Some programs may have prerequisites that you haven't taken. So for instance, some international affairs programs like you to have taken macroeconomics. Well, if it's your last semester and you might be like, well, now how am I going to fit a macroeconomics course in? So you want to know something about what they're going to expect before you're in your last semester, ideally. I also really strongly encourage people to talk to program representatives, alumni if they're available, or if you know them, or current students. Program representatives should be the easiest. This is kind of their job. You can call them up on the phone and they will talk to you. And they will be good and informative representatives of the program. Alumni and current students can also be good sources of information. Although I also put the small asterisk that sometimes the people who know the least about graduate school are graduate students. Something else you should be thinking about months before you apply is taking the GRE. The GRE is kind of like a graduate school equivalent of the SAT. And yes, it has a verbal section and a math section. I think it has a writing section now too, perhaps. I encourage people to prepare for that experience. A good way to prepare is to take a practice test to see how you do, grade it honestly. And then to figure out what you need to strengthen. It's certainly the case that you can try like these little like hints for like how do you do multiple choice tests the best way. But I personally really say if you've kind of forgotten some math, maybe it's better just go back and remember it as being a more effective way of improving your score. And again, that takes some time. Typically, you're going to want to have taken the GRE probably by the end of October of the fall that you're applying for graduate school, not later than that. And the earlier you take it gives you the opportunity, for instance, to take it again if you did poorly. Thinking about where to go. So first and foremost, the program, what you want to get out of the program needs to match the program that you're applying for, right? Very often, regardless of how good a student you are, a program won't accept you if they think you don't fit, right? So it's in your own interest in terms of what you want to do for your career, but also in your short-term interest in the sense that they won't accept you, to understand what your interests are and how they relate to a program that you're applying to. I encourage you to be interested in program outcomes. So placement matters. Like, if you like, I would discourage someone from going to a program where people don't get jobs at the end, right? Like, just, let's be practical here. You're going to spend a lot of effort, maybe money, on this process. So, you want to know how they do. And typically, graduate programs will be forthright about outcomes. Things like prestige do matter. That is absolutely important. As a rule, you should go to the best program that you can, because there are opportunities that will be there. Things like professional networks. But that said, it also doesn't make sense to just apply to the top 5 programs. That's not a good strategy. You want to find ones that are right for you, that have good placement rates, that are well respected. I think that's really kind of things to think about here. And then last, you want to think a little bit about your own personal fit. Where do you want to live? Are you going to be uncomfortable in a very rural campus or a very urban campus? Are you a Floridian and afraid of the cold? Are you a Northerner who hates being hot all the time? Student body characteristics. Are you really interested in a student body that's very international? Is that maybe not the most important thing? Are there other characteristics or demographic things that are important to you? These are all things to think about when you're thinking about where to go. Talk a little bit about application things. So first and foremost, you need to understand the requirements, and you should understand the requirements as soon as you can, right? Because that'll help you make the right choices, not just as you're filling out the application, but well before that. Almost every graduate school application will require recommendation letters, typically 3. Now, MA programs and PhD programs will typically mostly be interested in letters from faculty members that you've had. And as a rule, I would encourage you to pursue permanent faculty members. So at UCF, that we're talking about lecturers or professors, typically not adjunct professors, who gave you A's if possible, because then they'll have positive things to say about you. No one's going to write It is rare that people write negative letters, but if there's not much positive to say, you might have a quite short letter. And short letters are not necessarily read as well as longer, more positive letters. Some of the international affairs programs might have some interest in a professional recommendation of some sort. So like maybe from like an internship or something like that. So that might also be an appropriate kind of person to write a letter. Other people from your life who might be willing to say nice things about you are typically not going to be useful or effective letter writers. So sometimes, I've seen people be like, well, I know, family, friend is a member of Congress. That letter isn't going to tell us much, and it's basically going to be disregarded, right? So it's not about the prestige of the person per se, but rather their ability to speak in concrete terms about how wonderful you are in an academic or professional setting. That's what we want. Personal statements. Just about every program requires a personal statement. And in my experience, a lot of students, and I will count myself as this when I was an undergrad, don't know how to do these effectively. I sometimes talk about personal statements as being like dating. So why are they right for you and why are you right for them? So kind of like trying to communicate like why this is going to be a good match, right? In that sense, you want to give them a sense of who you are and why you want to do this. I find that students a lot of times have difficulty with that second part, being able to effectively communicate why this. And so that often requires a little bit of introspection on your part, but I think that that's actually productive because it'll help you better understand the nature of your goals and why they're your goals. I think that's productive regardless. Something that you need to do is clearly communicate that you understand the program that you're applying for and what that program values in applicants. So for example, if you're applying to a PhD program, research is the main purpose of a PhD program. You need to communicate that you're interested in doing research and you know what research is. Sometimes students just don't know that, or they don't necessarily know how to effectively communicate that. And so this is really, really, really important. You need to get honest feedback, probably from a faculty member, who kind of has an understanding of what personal statements are and how the process works. You should expect to go through multiple drafts. You should expect that your first few versions are going to need work, and that's me being generous. A lot of times when typically if I write a recommendation letter for someone, I want to see a personal statement. So typically I will give them feedback, and a lot of times I'll say, well, let's get rid of the first paragraph and the last paragraph and about half of what's in between. A big part of that particular pattern is that in the first paragraph and the last paragraph, people just say the same things that absolutely anyone who could apply for this program would say. And it's completely uninformative. That doesn't tell us anything, right? And so you've got to really think about these key steps. Why do you want to do this? Why are they right for you? Why are you right for them, right? And again, clearly communicating that you understand the program that you're looking for. One way to communicate that is by talking about, faculty who work there, for instance, right? Communicating that you've at least spent some time looking at the website to understand who works there and who you might, for instance, in a PhD program or an MA program, who do you want to work with, right? Whose research are you interested in joining? But I really can't stress enough the importance of getting honest feedback. If someone looks at your first draft and says it's fine, do not believe them. Something else is you want to customize the statement that you send for each institution. That doesn't mean that you have to start from scratch each time, but you do want to make sure that what you're saying is appropriate to each institution and that you are clearly communicating that you care about that program and you understand it and its goals. Okay. A lot of students are daunted by kind of paying for further education. And so let's kind of talk through a couple of these different pieces. So first and foremost, you should almost never pay for a PhD. Almost never. Typically, PhD programs will not accept you if they can't fund you. When we say fund you, that means that they are offering funding through a GTA position or potentially a fellowship. A GTA position means, what that means is that you are probably working about 20 hours a week, assisting a faculty member through grading, usually grading. Faculty members hate grading. And sometimes they'll give you a fellowship, and sometimes more rarely a research assistant position. These, in exchange for a GTA position or a fellowship, they will cover tuition, health insurance, and give you a living stipend. So when I say you shouldn't pay for a PhD, I mean that. And frankly, if they're offering you admission but not giving you a funding offer, they aren't really that serious about you. Okay, master's programs. You may get funding in the same way through like a GTA position. So for instance, in our program, we offer up to 3 or 4 a year. But you may also need to self-fund or use loans for an MA. International affairs and public policy programs. In looking at the offers that students have had that I've seen, it's not unusual to get a partial funding offer in some sort, but you should absolutely anticipate taking out loans to pay for it. What I would say though is that these programs are very often very effective at getting students to where they want to be. And so that means either working for the government, in which case you can take advantage of government loan repayment and public service loan forgiveness programs, or sometimes working in the private sector where your salary will quickly help you cover the loans. Any questions? Yeah. beyond just the application process, and hopefully well before the application process, it's important to think about, well, how am I going to be, how am I going to be a competitive applicant for these programs, especially for better ones? So first and foremost, you got to do well in class. That's important. They're going to look at your GPA. They may look in, understanding ways. So maybe if, you started out, in your freshman and sophomore year, or maybe when you were in a state college or something like that, you didn't do as well, or maybe you started out as a computer science major and you regret that choice. They're going to be understanding of that. But the last couple of years, and especially major classes, you should be doing well as a rule. I'd also suggest that don't just do one class. Try and be somewhat well-rounded. Now, since this is mostly like political sciencey sorts of students, maybe take a math class or a statistics class, something like that. It will be helpful. I encourage people to seek out academic and professional experiences outside of the classroom. So honors undergraduate thesis or other forms of undergraduate research, study abroad, internships, probably other things as well. This is more complicated, but I think it's important. Certainly will give you something to say in your personal statement. But try and be interesting. That's not a message that we necessarily tell the students a lot, but increasingly I think it's important. So that means that you should actually try and be passionate about something. Invest at least a little bit of your life in something you actually genuinely care about. I'm not saying that you don't care about this, but be passionate. Have an adventure. Read things that you aren't assigned to read. Learn a foreign language, and don't just do it to meet the requirement, but actually continue using it in some way, right? This is a very hard thing to quantify, but take some risks, do something interesting. You'll be better off for doing so, and certainly when you apply for things like graduate school, it'll make the process a little bit easier. Okay. We have a few guest presenters who are going to talk about individual programs. Before we do, though, I want to give the representatives of the different programs a chance to just, 5 minutes or that, we'll take maybe 5 minutes. So are there any things that you'd like to add to what I've said so far? Andrew, anything you'd like to add?
No,
that's fine. No, yeah, that's fine. I think David, is that right? From Heinz College?
Yes, sir.
Anything you'd like to add?
I think you did a great job. I would say as you're thinking about researching your career goals, another opportunity is identifying people who are in those roles currently, looking at their profiles on social media or on their company's or organization's website, and asking them about their own experiences and how they got to where they are today. I think people love to talk about themselves, especially when you're just asking them to talk about themselves, not asking them for a favor. And another approach is kind of reverse engineering, thinking about your career goal and what kinds of skills you need. And again, you can use those profiles on social media and on websites to determine what you need to, how to fill that gap or bridge that gap in order to achieve those career goals that you've laid out for yourself. But I think that was great advice that you provided.
Thank you. Thanks. Ashley, anything you'd like to add?
I support what he just said, and that was a great overview. All the information that you presented was spot on with what we advise applicants to consider. One thing that I would also add is, for instance, at the Bush School, every student admitted into 2 of our programs receives a merit-based competitive scholarship, which also qualifies them for a non-resident tuition waiver, allowing them to pay in-state tuition. So just asking graduate schools, do you offer a non-resident tuition waiver? Is that an option? Because that can be added on to that scholarship.
Thanks. And then, I'm sorry, I don't know exactly who we have from SAIS, but is there something there?
Hi, I'm Sidney Jackson. Pleasure to meet you.
Sydney.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I think you did a phenomenal job in laying out, I think, real key factors one should be thinking about and preparing for graduate school. I think you're right. You want to do it for the right reasons. And I like when you said be passionate about something, even, as you in your research, because I think that's a big part of why we select students into our program. What are they passionate about? And do we have what they want to help them pursue that passion as they follow through on their graduate studies here. So I think that's a really good point. The other point is, as you're researching your graduate schools, simultaneously look at what financial aid offerings they have. We often find that students wait till they're admitted to do real in-depth research on financial aid, and they tend to find out that there may have been some deadlines they missed, even for external scholarships, because they were waiting to get a notice out of admissions and really hadn't done a thorough research on the financial aid side. So, scour the financial aid websites, just like you're scouring for the admissions process and policies. But good job.
Thanks. I appreciate that. That's good advice that no one's mentioned to me before, but that's really good advice. Okay. First, presentation. Can you hold that up? I can try. Okay. That's fine. I'll tell you in graduate school that one of your major things you have to learn is how to run a computer PowerPoint. And stop share. And this one. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. That was a very thorough introduction. I'm going to talk to you guys about a little bit about our program, just to give you some details about admissions and what we look for, classes we offer. Slideshow. There we go. Okay. All right. So as Tom said, I'm Andrew Boughton. I'm an associate professor here in the political science department. I'm also the director of the MA program. And so that's my contact information right there. We also have Kyrie Ottaviani. She's not here right now, but if you do end up coming to UCF, she'll be a very important part of your life. She's just right down the hall. She's our sort of in charge of all things bureaucratic. So yeah. All right. So I'm just going to give you like a very quick summary of our MA program. So it's a 33 credit hour degree. It's doable in 4 semesters. And so here are the core courses. There are 2 tracks. There's a non-thesis and a thesis track, but I'll just give you the core requirements right now because they're the same for everybody. So usually in the fall, these 2 classes are offered. They are methods classes. This one it's going to be a lot like a statistics class, but an applied statistics applied to political science research. This is more of a research design class, how to set up research questions, how to ask questions, test hypotheses, and things like that. So everybody has to take these 2 classes. And then we have our core seminars in the 4 different fields of political science. Everybody has to take 2 of these. And so yeah, these are typically offered in the spring. These are just kind of general intro classes for each of the fields, where you'll read just the seminal works in American politics, comparative politics, international relations, things like that. Okay, so those are the core requirements that everybody has to do. Back to the 2 tracks that I mentioned. So there's a thesis and a non-thesis and a thesis track. So the main difference really is the end product. So in the non-thesis track, the end product is It's kind of like a thesis, but just smaller. It's usually about 8,000 words, but really that depends on you and your committee, what you decide on. It's just less intensive. Usually doesn't require a lot of original data collection. It's just kind of smaller in scale. Whereas an MA thesis is it's kind of like a mini dissertation. It's usually much longer. It tends to be, I've seen 40 to 80 pages and sometimes even longer. A lot of times it requires original data collection, more original research. It's a really good introduction to what doing a dissertation is like. And so I usually recommend, so if a student is sort of on the fence about whether they want to go on to do a PhD program after the MA program, I usually recommend doing the thesis option because it will give you a really good idea of what doing a dissertation is like. If you have no interest in pursuing a research career, whether in academia or elsewhere, just do the non-thesis option. Like I said, it's less intense, and it's usually you can get done with it quicker. Although it'll usually end up taking the same amount of time whether you pursue the non-thesis or the thesis option. The other difference is that you have to take 2 additional classes in the non-thesis track, and that's only because 2 electives are counted as thesis hours under the thesis track. So because the project is just more intense and time consuming, you can take 2 3-credit thesis hours classes and count them as electives towards the overall 33 credit hour requirement. Okay, so those are the 2 tracks. We're definitely not going to go through all these classes, but just to give you an idea of the types of classes that we offer. So as you can see, we're pretty heavy on international relations classes. We have a good set of comparative politics classes and then some American politics classes over on the right, with a couple of public policy classes. Note that we don't offer all of these classes all the time, every semester. Some we haven't even offered in 5 years. It just kind of depends on who we have available to teach these classes. But there are other classes that we offer on a pretty regular basis, like the terrorism and politics class. Seminar in intelligence is offered pretty regularly. American foreign policy, revolution, political violence, these 2 classes, comparative politics in the Middle East, and then the American politics classes are offered pretty regularly. So just to give you an idea of what the types of classes that we offer here. So real quickly about admissions, these are the required application materials. You do not need to take the GRE to be admitted to our graduate program. All you need is a 500-word personal statement, a CV, 3 letters of recommendation, and official transcripts from your undergraduate institution. I would echo what Tom said earlier about the personal statement. It's really important. That's in my opinion, that's the most important thing about an application package. And that's particularly true if your GPA is less than 3.0, or even if it's on the lower end, like near 3.0, the personal statement is going to become really, really important. And it really should not be just a restatement of your CV in prose form, because that's something that I get quite a bit. I want to know something more about you, like what you want to do in the future. What is it that draws you to this program in particular? What about your past life has led you to this point, and how that's informs your career goals and academic goals. So it's really important. The letters of recommendation, I would also echo what Tom said. Try to get them from professors, professors that you did well in class, ones that you know well. If you can't find 3, supervisor at a current job is okay. Current or past job is okay. I would really try to get at least 2 professors if you can, who are able to evaluate your academic performance and potential. So that's really important. And so yeah, I say typically GPA greater than 3.0. We can admit people that have GPAs lower than that on a conditional basis. I'll say that the average GPA of incoming MA students in our program is 3.6, and that's been getting higher. I don't know if that says anything about the students themselves or the grade inflation, whatnot, but the average GPA is between a 3.5, 3.4, and 3.6 over the past 4 years. So just to give you a profile of the typical student that we have here. Okay, so Tom and some of the other speakers talked a little bit about funding. There are some fellowships available. So we have, things like the McNair and the Azen Fellowship for Florida residents. We also have, as Tom mentioned, I didn't include this on here, but for fall applicants, we usually have 2 to 4 graduate GTA lines available for students who are admitted in the fall. And Tom described it well. It's 20 hours a week. You're working for a professor. You get health insurance, you get a tuition waiver, and you get a little stipend in exchange for working 20 hours a week. It's usually pretty laid back. I mean, depending on who you're working for, I guess. But yeah, they also tend to be pretty competitive because we only have a few of them to give out every year. We usually get about 20 to 30 applications for the fall for that priority deadline, and we can only give out a few. So they're pretty competitive, and they're just merit based. We give them to the students who are the best applicants. Let's see. So as far as what I look for when I'm admitting students, I didn't include this here, but I thought about when Tom was talking, what I usually look for is students who are going to do well in grad classes, and that have clearly defined goals and that have shown that they are able to do well in our grad classes. So an indicator of how well you're going to do in a grad class is well, obviously your grades, and also your grades and if you've ever taken like a research-based course or something in research methods, scope and methods in political science, for UCF students, everybody has to take that. That's usually a pretty good indicator of how well you're going to do in graduate level courses, because graduate courses they're just more intense. You're reading different stuff. It's not as watered down as a lot of the stuff that you read as an undergrad. You're digging into research design and statistics, and so it's a different beast. And so that's kind of what I look for. What else? We also have students that do internships for credit. You can take up to 6 credit hours of internship credit. So if you get an internship in DC or somewhere else, you can count those. You can meet with our internship coordinator and count those as credit, and as electives towards the MA degree. Some other opportunities we have 3 different certificate programs. And a lot of these, so these are really just kind of sets of classes that you can, clusters of classes that you can take. So we have the intelligence and national security class, like you saw on the course listing. We have a lot of different, we have American foreign policy, international security, seminars on intelligence, things like that. You can, formally, you can get a certificate in intelligence and national security as an additional sort of credential on your CV. And the good thing about these certificates, at least these two, is that there's a lot of overlap between what these require and what the MA program requires. You can get these certificates and without really having to take many extra classes. I think a lot of them you can take without having to take any extra classes. So that's nice. They're different graduate programs. So if you end up coming here and being interested in the programs, you have to apply separately. But that's a bureaucratic question that you can resolve later. And we have survey research and then network analysis. Okay, other opportunities. We have Tom, who's in charge of the ICCAE. They have lots of money to give out for various things. And that includes doing internships in DC. DC is expensive, and some of the internships aren't always paid. And so the ICCAE can help with that sometimes. We have Office of Prestigious Awards. They're good at, guiding students to apply for NSF grants, Fulbright grants, other things like the Bourne Fellowship, things like that. And then in the spring, we usually have a career event where we invite past alumni to come talk to current MA students about what they're doing and their experiences in our MA program. So what do our students end up doing after they're done here? It's just such a wide variety of careers that students pursue after they leave our MA program. So we have a student, so I'm just talking about in the last couple of years. These are the different employers that students have found jobs with. We have a student in the PhD program at the University of Cincinnati. We have one here, two here, maybe more. We tend to get a lot of students from our MA program going into our PhD program, and they've been some of our best students. We have people working in the State Department. We have somebody working in the Defense Department who just graduated in the spring. Somebody who's doing data analysis at the Social Security Administration. Somebody who's doing data analytics for the Seminole County Democrats. Somebody who's working in the U.S. Army. And then a couple of nonprofits in DC. And then somebody who's working at the Federal Reserve Bank in Atlanta. And this is just kind of a random sample of students from the past few years. There's really just a wide diversity of careers that students end up going on to. That's all I had, I think. So actually one more thing that I forgot to include here, application deadlines. So we accept applications on a rolling basis. If you want to be considered for funding, you have to apply for the fall semester by January 15th. And I think those applications are already open. So, no, they're not. They don't open until October. So between October and January, apply for the fall semester, fall 2024, by January 15th, if you want to be considered for those few funding opportunities that we have. Otherwise, applications are just kind of on a rolling basis. If you want to apply for the spring semester, you can apply by December 1st. If you want to apply for the summer semester, you can apply by April 1st. If you want to apply for the fall semester, you can apply by July 1st. And we'll we'll look at your application for that semester. So so that was the last thing I had, and I'll stick around to answer any questions.
Great, thanks. So next we'll have we will hear from David from CMU.
Great, thank you very much. Dr. Dolan, are you able to enable screen share?
Yes, oh, sorry. Come on.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. While that's getting set up, my name is David Eber. I'm the head of admissions and financial aid at Carnegie Mellon University's Heinz College. And thank you to Dr. Dolan and other colleagues for arranging for today's session. I'm going to take a different approach here. We're going to spend a little bit more time on our junior summer fellowships. This would be the summer before your last fall as an undergrad. And they're both in the areas of public policy and international affairs, like was on the agenda, as well as one in cybersecurity. So I do want to give you a quick overview here of those opportunities, and then we'll also spend some time on our master's program. So again, thank you. Just a quick note, we've had at least 5 UCF alumni who've enrolled in our master's programs over the last couple of years. And we have one more who's set to enroll in 2024. So we're really excited about this growing relationship. So what I'd like to do is, in this portion, we're going to cover a series of topics on this slide. Hope that you find it interesting. I'm going to provide a brief overview about our city, our university, and our department within Carnegie Mellon. Then I'll talk a little bit about the summer fellowships in public policy and information security policy. Hopefully based on your particular track, those will both be of interest. And then I can close with some advice on conducting a grad school search and following up on some of the things that Dr. Dolan shared in his portion. So I'm going to just share a couple of points that I think are always important. Why do you attend graduate school, whether you do it now or later, whether it's changing career paths or the career that you want to pursue, require that degree, or you're just looking for a competitive advantage in that job market. Those are all great reasons to go to graduate school. I'll also add that money, right? It shouldn't be your number one reason, but the opportunity to make an extra $1 million in your career compared to the same person with a bachelor's degree as a standalone is certainly compelling for me. So before I get into the academics here, what school you go to for graduate school is extremely important, but the city where you live and you're going to study is also important. And for CMU, its location in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, plays an incredibly important role in the experience for our students. Pittsburgh has a steel city or steel town reputation, but it's developed into a very green city, actually. It's livable, affordable, walkable, and it's an urban lab for our students and our faculty. So Pittsburgh's a great place to work and to study, especially for a graduate student, right? The real world opportunities everywhere you go in the region across all the sectors are readily available for our students. To pat ourselves on the back, we are the biggest show in town, and we leverage that reputation for the benefit of our students. So, for example, we partner with the mayor on a number of projects. We work with industry partners in technology and cyber emergency response, social policy, and many other issues serving the greater good. Again, we're able to use the city as a test bed for our students' work. And Pittsburgh's a cultural center. We have arts and entertainment opportunities, theater, ballet, opera all around us. So for our students interested in those careers, those are great internship opportunities, but it's also great for our other students. We have a low cost of living, which makes it even better. We've got the amenities, the restaurants, nightlife, professional and college sports teams. So again, a steel town reputation, but a green city, livable, affordable, and walkable, as well as an urban lab. And if you don't believe us, you don't believe me, you can check out the QR code on this slide, some of the top ranked areas that we're in. So not only do we have a great reputation as a university, but we have a great reputation as a city. Shifting gears to our university, though, CMU is a top 25 ranked university overall and has a great reputation in a number of areas that are critical to or relevant to the students who are coming from a school like UCF and who are studying political science, public policy, information security, and intelligence, and other related fields. So again, your background is a great foundation for what we're talking about in our summer fellowships as well as our master's programs. In addition to the rankings on this slide, other relevant rankings for Carnegie Mellon include top 10 in information and technology management, quantitative analysis, information systems, most innovative schools, and the best for new hires. So definitely a great reputation for sure. And outside of the classroom, we literally have hundreds of student organizations on our campus. Many are focused on social activities, while others are centered around academic and professional development. And others are even designed to bring together students from different cultures and celebrate our school's diversity. So, and if there isn't a club or activity that's already, already available at CMU, you can start it yourself with a very easy process. All right, so now that we know a little bit more about Pittsburgh and CMU as a whole, I want to dive into a little bit more about our college and our programs in public policy and cybersecurity. So you'll notice the two banners on the front of our building. That's the two schools, and this unique co-location of our two schools under the Heinz College umbrella. That's the School of Public Policy and the School of Information Systems. It puts our students at what we would consider an intersection of three sciences. That's social science, decision science, and data science. And with the end goal of training our alumni to work at the nexus of people, policy, and technology. Heinz College was founded in the late 1960s by the late great Bill Cooper on the premise of educating people for intelligent action. What do we mean by that? Intelligence is using technology and data, and action is implementation and leading people and organizations, again, at that intersection of social decision and data science. Heinz College is a center of excellence at the intersection of those fields, and many of our faculty are examining the societal scale challenges that require that expertise in policy, technology, and management. And you'll see that we focus on topics that involve people and their behaviors, public policy, analytics, and technology. And the applications of those fields can be seen in a wide variety of societal domains. That's IT-enabled technology and policy implementation, urban systems and transportation, healthcare, information security and privacy, and many, many more. And again, we're going to focus on those two yellow highlighted fields today. Our students and faculty use Pittsburgh as a test bed or an urban lab to look at building smarter cities and communities and improving quality of life. And we're central to the work that's being done in information security and in data privacy, both on the academic and in the real-world application of those skills. So the first specific program I want to focus on is one of our junior summer institutes. And this is our IT Lab Summer Security Intensive. The IT Lab SSI is a Heinz-sponsored fellowship program for students interested in IT, data analytics, or cybersecurity. You're going to study with the world's leading security analytics and policy researchers, taking courses with CERT employees, the Cyber Emergency Response Team here at the university. That's part of the Software Engineering Institute. You can take coursework in security analytics and policy. There's a capstone project with a local client. And then for the students who complete this summer program with us at Carnegie Mellon, you would then be eligible for a minimum of a 50% tuition scholarship to pursue your master's degree in that same field. So the classes that you would take would be an introduction to information security, data management and security, and cloud computing. The capstone students worked with subject matter experts in the past, and you come up with recommendations for that organization. It's, again, a real world client for that project over the summer. So if you're interested in that, the deadline to apply, and this is going to be an experience for, again, the summer before your final fall semester as an undergrad. So if you're going to be in your final year in the fall of 24, you'd be applying for the summer of 24 experience. If you have questions about that, I'm happy to help. And then the other summer fellowship is the Public Policy and International Affairs Junior Summer Institute. So you'll see here, again, involving our, hosted at our Pittsburgh campus, and both true for the IT Lab as well as PPIA. They're 7 weeks in length. All of your expenses are covered. That's your travel to and from campus, a room on campus in one of the apartment buildings owned by the university. All of your food is covered. You receive a stipend of $1,500. To cover that, a total of $3,000 between your meal money and a stipend at the completion of either of these programs for the summer experience. So for the PPI program, we offer 2 tracks each summer, a general public policy pathway, and then our data analytics pathway. So students are going to take classes in economics and statistics, and the fellows take 2 other classes based on their track. So everybody will take dismantling systems of oppression. The analytics students take a data visualization in Tableau for their 4th class, while the general pathway students are taking the international and domestic social policy comparative course. So you can apply for this for either of these programs from our website. And the application deadline for PPIA is November 1st. So there is a pressing deadline on that you should be aware of. Some benefits for the PPIA program at CMU. We spend a weekend in Washington, D.C., where there's a graduate school expo with over 50 schools around the country who all offer a scholarship benefit to the PPIA alumni. While the IT lab, the summer security students, the benefit is limited to just the Carnegie Mellon master's programs at Heinz College. So moving on, and again, for those who finish the PPIA program, you would be eligible for a full tuition scholarship and a stipend to attend CMU for graduate school, which is a larger package compared to the security program, but security students do have opportunities for additional funding at CMU. So regardless of whether or not you do one of our summer fellowships, we have significant scholarship support available for you to then go on to pursue your master's degree at our school. We have merit-based scholarships based on your undergraduate experience, if you decide to take the GRE or the GMAT, and other factors, including your previous work experience. We also have dozens of strategic partner organizations like the Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, and Teach for America. So if you decide to do a fellowship of some sort of experience before you go to graduate school, there may be additional funding available for you through that as well. And on our website, we have a number of those summer fellowships not hosted at Carnegie Mellon, but they, I believe, Dr. Bowden mentioned some of the international affairs fellowships like Pickering and Wrangell that are out there. If you're interested in that, we have some links on our website about that as those options as well. So for our master's programs, regardless of the degree program, all of our students have a core set of courses and experiences that are going to prepare them for a career in which they're going to make a lasting impact. So the courses in analytics like finance and economics, the technology courses like database design, it's not enough just to have the hard skills that come in those foundation courses. It's also the implementation, right? Courses like organizational management and communications. These are teaching you skills in negotiation, persuasion, leadership, and teamwork. But these are skills that you can't just learn about in the classroom. They need to be practiced. So we try to put you in settings that prepare you for the real world application of those skills. The real world, simply put, is messy, right? And we can't replicate that in the classroom. So we want to get you out there to see how this is going to play out in the real world. So you'll have a summer internship required between your first and second year of the master's program. You'll also need to be able to lead and change and manage across cultures, personalities, and ages. So we're going to talk about that in the classroom and then have you do that in real world settings. Effectively communicating goals and objectives, cross-cultural communication, measuring the effectiveness of the plan that you put into place. All these things are necessary for you to be an effective leader over the course of your career. And we want you to be able to do that both in an academic setting as well as in a professional setting. So in order to make that impact, that critical element is going to be able to practice. And as a Heinz College student, you are going to do that several times, whether it's through case-based and client-based coursework. It's going to be through the internship over the summer. Many of our students also work part-time while they're in school in Pittsburgh. And then we also have all of our master's students complete a full semester capstone project. So here's a few examples of those capstone projects. The 412 Food Rescue, Leah Lizarrando, she's a public policy program alum. She basically put together restaurants and grocery stores with extra food and put them in touch with shelters and food pantries to get the food delivered by a network of volunteer drivers, all connected through that 412 Food Rescue app. We've had students work on capstone projects to help develop and enhance the 911 call system, the Access paratransit system here in Pittsburgh, which predated Uber and Lyft. And for those of you who might be interested in education policy, our students created the groundbreaking curriculum and structure of the city's city's Science and Technology Academy. So, and to tie all of this together outside of the classroom, as well as inside the classroom, we have a dedicated staff and career services who are going to work with you to create a strategy as you plan for your career path after Heinz. So it's a very intentional space for us at Heinz College. So you're going to have an advisor assigned based on your field of study. They're going to work with you on your resume and your cover letter, provide you with support for your internship as well as your job searches, and they're going to coordinate job fairs and networking events for you and even conduct mock interviews. Career services and student affairs, we also offer case competitions, student organizations, conference funding, and our alumni mentor program. Simply put, this is our formula for success. It's a core curriculum and opportunities to practice analytics, technology, and implementation in order for you to have a real world impact. And we do that through not only those junior summer fellowships in IT Lab, Summer Security Intensive, and the PPIA program, but we have these great professional master's programs. So if you're interested in cybersecurity, the MSISPM program is likely the best program for your interest. Again, much like that summer program, you're going to be learning from leading practitioners from the SEI CERT division. These are experts who are having an impact on national security on a daily basis. Moving beyond the classroom, you're able to gain tangible skills through work opportunities, both on and off campus, including research and teaching assistant opportunities, and working alongside those faculty experts. Within the curriculum, you're going to have your security core classes as well as your management core classes. And then you're going to have experiential learning opportunities, as well as a short list here of some of the most popular electives that our security students are able to take. In addition, students are able to attend conferences, and the MSISPM program sponsors students to travel to prominent hacking conferences, including Black Hat, RSA, and DEF CON. We have a great speaker series. The program and student organizations host a wide variety of speakers and guest panels representing all sectors, giving you access to those speakers to ask questions, to network, to build those relationships. And the demand for the skills that you're learning in the summer program, in the summer program, as well as more importantly in the master's program, are in high demand. You'll see a sample of the sectors and the employers that our graduates are working in. I'm going to skip there. Sorry. And then moving on to the public policy and management side of the house, we have 3 pathways for students to pursue. The first is our 2-year program in Pittsburgh. That's featured on the left here. I'd say that the biggest feature here to keep in mind is the depth and flexibility of the curriculum. We do have 10 predefined concentration areas for students in that 2-year track. I'll list those on the next slide. In the middle section, we have our data analytics pathway for students who want that deep dive into how do you use data and information to be a more informed decision maker and leader. Or if you're interested in going into consulting in particular, that's a great option as well. And that program is going to give you depth in the analytics space. And then our Washington, D.C. pathway is our policy analysis concentration, with an opportunity for students to spend their first year in Pittsburgh, but in their second year, they move to Washington, D.C. And then Monday to Thursday, 9 to 5, they're working for a DC-based organization. And then 2 nights a week and all day on Fridays, they're going to class, finishing their master's coursework. So we do offer deep dives into analytics. Then we have that second campus in DC that's open to the public policy students to spend 1 or 2 semesters there. But our concentrations that are the other concentrations listed on the slide are optional for all MSPPM students. If you want to do a deep dive into a particular field, students can choose to work with the faculty leader in that particular space who oversees their chosen concentration. And you'll see those listed here. And then if you're interested, you can also self-design or define a concentration or combine 2 of these areas into a single concentration yourself. Here are a few additional examples of capstone projects that our students have worked on in recent years, followed by samples of our employers for recent graduates of our public policy and management program, with that bottom stripe there in the red boxes of the specific sectors that these organizations are a part of. Just to wrap up here, talking about our admissions process, as Dr. Dolan talked about, it's really a holistic approach. So, everything counts, right? And please note that we do base our admission decision and our scholarship awards on the same criteria. We don't charge an application fee, and applicants will be notified of their admission decision by mid-March, with a deadline of April 15th to respond to accept or decline the offer. So we do require an official transcript from the bachelor's degree granting institution. I will point out that grades in your classes that are most closely related to your intended field of study are what's going to matter most to our committee. And please keep in mind that the committee does want to see either consistent grades or an upward trajectory in your GPA. We require 2 recommendations, and one of those should be a professional recommendation. Since we are a professional master's program, we are looking for that prior internship experience at a minimum. Your resume should include all of your work experience, including internships and hourly jobs, as well as volunteer and extracurricular activities, particularly leadership positions that you've held in those organizations. Within the essay, it's going to be about your background and your goals, and how does this program in particular help you to achieve those goals. So please keep in mind within the essay and the resume and that other kind of supporting evidence, your main objective in this entire process is to demonstrate your knowledge about your field of interest, your motivation to attend graduate school, and you want to show why this degree is a good fit for you. So really keep that in mind, and I think my colleagues have already made that clear. The GRE and GMAT are optional for 2024. You can follow that QR code to get the specifics on that policy for the upcoming year. We do have a video interview that's optional. That's part of the application system. Feel free to use that. Over 90% of our students are going to receive at least a partial tuition scholarship from their program at Heinz. We don't require a separate application to be considered for those merit-based awards. And we do not charge an application fee. And one other point that I want to bring up in terms of during your graduate school search, find out if the schools you're looking at are considering or require interviews as part of the admission process. This is not something to be paying close attention to, because you need to plan ahead for that. We encourage you to continue the conversation with us as a department and as a college, with faculty, students, and staff online. You can also do that in person. We have live and recorded webinars available. We also have our fall open houses coming up November 10th and 11th. We do have potentially travel subsidies available for students coming from UCF, so you can contact me with questions about how to access that money. And if you're interested in getting a second set of eyes, like Dr. Dolan talked about, for your essay, we have a diversity and policy mentor program where you can request one of our current students to help you review your essay through the lens of a student who's already been successful in this process. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of the DPMP. And that's available for students who are thinking about the master's programs in either information security or in public policy. So thank you again for your time here today, and I look forward to answering any questions at the end.
Thanks very much. Next, we'll hear from Ashley, and then after Ashley, we will hear from Sydney.
Awesome. I'm going to share my screen really quick and put this up. So I'm Ashley. Catherine Meyer is in charge of recruitment here at the Bush School, but she was out today at another event. The Bush School of Government and Public Service, in case you aren't aware, is located in College Station, Texas. This is our campus. I pulled this picture just to kind of give you an overview. We're located in this building. This is our museum, and this is our conference center. But College Station is centrally located between Fort Worth, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston. So it's a central location, and you can easily get to all of those major metropolitan areas. As stated earlier, we prepare public servants for careers in anything ranging from nonprofit organization work, international nonprofit organizations, employment in the federal government sector, or even the state and local government. And then we have some students that work in private industries that also funnel into the federal or state and local government agencies. I'm not going to go into detail because we talked about that earlier, but we do offer a variety of master's degrees. Master of International Affairs and a Master of Public Service and Administration are our 2 flagship programs. At the bottom of this slide, you'll see that there's an executive level degree. It requires 4 years of professional experience. So I'm going to focus on the top 2, the Master of International Affairs and the Master of Public Service and Administration. Both are 2-year degrees. They require an internship in the summer between your first and second year. Non-thesis degrees that require a capstone project to graduate. And then within each of these degrees, we do have tracks. There's a lot of elective courses, so you can really mold, mix, and match your courses to the area that you want to focus on. So for instance, the Master of International Affairs, you can focus in national security and diplomacy, or maybe more on the international development side. The Public Service and Administration degree, this one has a track in nonprofit organizations, if you're focused on that, public management, which is our most popular, and public policy analysis, which is more on the analytical side of policy. Those degrees, each of them, just with any college, any degree, each one may admit students once per year or every semester. For our flagship programs, we do admit for fall entry only. And our applications, I'll get to the next slide, but each program admits students for different semesters, and the application deadlines are dependent on your program. So for instance, our Master of International Affairs and Master of Public Service and Administration admit once per year. And we do have a priority funding application deadline of December 15th. That's what it is year after year, so you can count on that deadline. And our final last chance to get anything in or to submit an application is January 12th or February 1st for our dual program. Application requirements, this is in general. Of course, an application where you tell us more about just kind of your background information, a resume, personal statement, and as stated earlier, the personal statement, I can't stress how important that is. A lot of applicants overlook the importance of that because that tells your story, that tells us who you are on paper. We do require interviews of everyone that's admitted, that goes on to the second round of our admissions process. I'll get to that here in a second. For our international affairs degrees, we do want to know more about your international exposure. So we do require an essay talking about, have you studied abroad? Do you have family living abroad? Maybe you've just visited or studied a certain area. Just tell us kind of where you stand. Recommendations, 3 recommendations, and as stated earlier, is required for our 2 flagship programs. The executive level program only requires 2, but 3 is safe. Transcripts from every college that you've attended for your college that you've attended, and then English proficiency for international applicants. And GRE or GMAT scores are completely optional for any program you apply to. We do, as stated earlier, do encourage applicants that may have a GPA below a 3.2. Go ahead and submit GRE scores if you're a great test taker. It can only help strengthen your application, but it will not penalize or hurt you if you do not submit them. So our admissions process, so someone said, I think the presentation before me had said, check to see if the program that you're applying to requires interviews. We do. So we actually review all completed applications at one time in mid-January to decide who we're going to move forward to the next round. And that is our interview stage. Interviews are done throughout the month of February. We have a huge event that we host here on campus where you get to interact with faculty, current students, former students that are in the field, our career services department, financial aid, all of it is just kind of jam-packed into a 2-day event on that weekend, Friday and Saturday. Once interviews are done, we come back, make final application decisions, admissions decisions, and funding decisions. So we do it all at one time. Some other schools you may want to check into if they do funding at the same time that they offer admission, or if it's after admission. We do it all at one time. And then deadline to accept or decline the offer is April 15th. So cost and funding, just to kind of let you know, our 2 flagship programs, we award a merit-based competitive scholarship to every admitted student enrolled full-time in those 2 degrees. Those scholarships can range anywhere from $1,000 a year all the way up to $29,000 a year. But our average scholarship is about a $5,000 scholarship per year. Our tuition and fees is, I highlighted the Texas resident tuition and fees for our 2 flagship programs on the left here, because that's around the amount that every student is going to pay with the scholarship plus a non-resident tuition waiver. So if you get a competitive scholarship here, you do get the non-resident tuition waiver that's worth $12,700 per year. So a decent chunk taken out. We do also offer scholarships for anyone that is completing an internship in that summer that's not paid. So we do offer extra opportunities for more funding if you're not being paid in your internship. And then year 2, your funding renews if your GPA is a 3.25 on first year grades, or you can apply for a graduate assistantship or a GAR position that pays even more. So you give up your scholarship in lieu of the graduate assistantship. Here are some class statistics for our most recent class. You'll see that we have our average GPAs are around a 3.6 in each program. We're trying to enroll between 90 to 100 students each year. So it just depends on the applicant pool that we have. We over-admit. We admit about 130 students each year, knowing that some are going to decline. But we have small class sizes. Most are about 15 to 16 students. Maximum class size is 25 students. That's more for the core courses. But all of our professors, one of the unique things here is they're either a seasoned practitioner. We have former FBI agents. We have the former head of CIA teaching classes, nonprofit directors teaching our classes, in addition to research scholars in their fields. Employment statistics, we have a dedicated career services staff with employment rates anywhere between 86 to 99% per year, year after year. 6 months after employment, this is the percentage of students that have a job. We have employment statistics down here. You'll see that our public service and administration degree, most of our students go into the state and local government or nonprofit field, whereas our international affairs degree, they're more focused on the federal government side. So you'll see those percentages a little bit higher. But go to our website, learn more about what all our career services staff does for our students. They help you with internship and job opportunities, finding those, applying for those, honing in on your resume, all of that good stuff. And then the last slide, because I want to keep it brief, is this is our contact information. If you want to learn more about our degrees, check us out online, or you can always contact Catherine or me. It's just us two. So if you call or email, it's going to be one of us that answers your questions. And that's all I've got.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Sydney. Let me make sure.
Great. So thank you very much. So I'm going to share my screen, and I can I get access to that, sir?
Yeah, I'm working on it. For some reason, it doesn't want to let me. Yes.
You made Ashley the only host, so she's the
Oh,
one that has to do it now.
oops. Ashley, apparently I accidentally made you the only host.
Lucky me.
You make me host again. Thank you. Okay.
All good. Okay, hold on a sec here.
It's not letting me change you to host.
Okay, can
Make
you
host.
just
There we
make-
go.
Yeah,
Got it.
okay. No, David is now the host. Apologize. I apparently
Let me see if I can do, well, there we go.
like
How about now?
Let's see here.
That working for you?
There we go. I think we
All
can.
right.
okay, good.
Hold on a sec here. Let's see. Here. All right. Okay. Well, I hope you have enough gas in you guys. I know it's towards the end here. We only have a few minutes, and I don't want to go through every aspect of every one of these slides, so I'm going to go fairly quickly. My name is Sidney Jackson. I'm the Assistant Dean for Global Enrollment and Recruitment here at Johns Hopkins SAIS, the School of Advanced International Studies. We're one of 9 divisions of Johns Hopkins University. Many of you know that the major, or the flagship campus is in our Baltimore, Maryland, Johns Hopkins SAIS was a school that started basically back in 1943. So we've since expanded from being one campus to now becoming a campus in 3 different locations. We've had a campus in Washington, D.C., as I noted, where approximately 600 students are enrolled, about 200 students in our SAIS Europe campus in Bologna, Italy, and about, I'd say right now, about 100 students in our Hopkins Nanjing campus in Nanjing, China. What's the difference between the 3? Well, as you can see here, we have 19 different offerings, 2 of which are online. Some are 2-year, some are 1-year degree programs. At our Washington, D.C. campus, our flagship program is our 2-year Master of Arts in International Relations. Many of our students come to us for that. But we also have 1-year offerings like the Master of Strategy, Cybersecurity, and Intelligence, and the Master of Arts in Global Risk. At our SAIS Europe campus, again, all instruction is in English. Students who come there can have the opportunity to pursue the first year of their 2-year MAIR degree in Bologna and 2nd year in Washington, D.C. And in the Hopkins Nanjing Center was started back in 1986. It was a joint academic program with Nanjing University. So it was one of the first academic joint ventures between the United States and China. So we've proud of that relationship we've had. I'm going to just really highlight, I think, some benefits of Washington, D.C. I think my colleagues have already kind of touched upon that, but we see ourselves as part of the international affairs fabric of Washington, D.C. We're literally in sight of the capital, U.S. Capitol. And as you know, our foreign policy, U.S. foreign policy is set here in Washington, D.C. So we're very fortunate to have access to a number of different research institutes, embassies, federal agencies, nonprofit organizations that are located here in the Washington, D.C. metro area. So we're very fortunate that our students can take advantage of that. Also, I would say many of our students are taught by faculty who work at some of the federal agencies, some of our practitioners, the multilateral organizations like the World Bank, IMF, African Development Bank, you name it. So we're very fortunate that they can tap into some of the practitioners who have real world experience they bring into the classroom. I mentioned about our campus. This is our brand new, kind of a facade of our brand new campus, just opened 2 months ago. It's now at 555 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's state-of-the-art facility with state-of-the-art classrooms, wellness center, fitness center, study space. Students, I think now are an amazing experience, not only in the classroom, but now take advantage of the facilities in terms of personal care, enjoyment of being in, I think, a state-of-the-art facility, which I think most students come to realize is a really important part of their experience at university, graduate school. Our SAIS Europe campus, which I mentioned, again, students who pursue that or offerings in that campus are going there primarily because they want to be in a contemporary European environment. They want the opportunity to be in proximity to other European capitals, to study some of these other areas. We've got cooperative agreements with a number of different schools, such as the Diplomatic Academy of Vienna or Sciences Po Lille, or even in Tel Aviv, Israel, McGill University in Canada. There's some students, again, who want to go there for the first year and maybe do a second year at some of these other institutions. But again, they're in proximity to Middle East, North Africa, as well as, again, being able to take advantage of some of the research institutes we have there. The Bologna Institute for Policy Research is a big one. The Hopkins Nanjing Center, as I mentioned, it's a target language program, meaning you have to be proficient in Mandarin in order to pursue either the certificates we offer there or the 2-year master's degrees. We basically are saying that, students typically have somewhere around 3 years of Chinese under their belt. They're probably going to be fine going into the programs, the offerings we have there. Many of the students, again, want to immerse themselves in the life of being in China. You live in residence with other Chinese students. The Nanjing University recruits students, Chinese students, to be part of this campus, as well. We're recruiting students who are non-Chinese, international, as well as U.S. citizens, to come there for either 1 year or 2 years. I'm just going to touch on some of the value propositions we think are important when students are looking at our programs, learning for the best, becoming an expert, building your network, and advancing your career. When we talk about becoming an expert, it's really taking advantage of some of the niche degrees we offer, and also taking advantage of some of the research opportunities you're going to be able to take advantage of as a student here. So you'll see that with our programs here, especially in our 2-year MAIR program, we focus heavily on international studies. There are functional areas within IR you'll focus on, as well as regional areas. We have professional skill development that we want to focus on, as well as elective courses you'll be able to take. We have 9 different foreign languages, and experiential learning is very important to us. We want you to be able to have the practical experience outside the classroom, and I'll have a slide on that you'll be able to pursue as a student here. Learning from the best, again, we like to highlight our faculty, learning from world-class experts renowned for their scholarship, influence, and networks they bring. We have over 250 academic scholars at across all 3 of our campuses. In terms of experiential learning, again, there are different opportunities for you to take advantage of. Right? Someone was mentioning about client engagements. We have practicum projects that students will focus on. For example, somebody will come to us and say, look, we want to focus on solar and sanitation projects in Cambodia, and our company, our international development organization, wants to focus on this, but we need some help. We want to get some students to help us engage some of the actors on ground, on site, to learn more about some of these issues. So we'll send some students there. They cover all the costs, and they'll end up writing a white paper on some of the issues that the organization has come to us on consulting. What they're consulting on. Staff rides, student-led rides, they can take advantage of. These are basically reenactment of military campaigns and what some of the leaders, government officials were thinking of at the time. Career and study tracks, again, for students wanting to go pursue employment in certain areas. We've got alumni and professionals on the ground in various cities around the globe. Paris, London, New York City. If they want to learn about finance, they may go to London or New York City. If they want to learn more about lobbying on Capitol Hill, they can do a study track here in Washington, D.C. Technology, we've taken them out to San Francisco. Learning more energy, we've taken them out to the Midwest. We've actually taken them to Colorado, we've taken them to Texas. So there's different things you can do. And internships obviously are very important too, because we have academic year internships as well as internships in the summer. Obviously, we have a vast network of alumni at Johns Hopkins you can tap into. 200-some thousand Johns Hopkins alumni globally, but 22,000 alone for SAIS. And then obviously the world alumni chapters to tap into data, information, again, learning more about various industry sectors, nonprofit, private, multilateral sectors you may be interested in pursuing. Obviously, we have some things we want you to pursue as a student in terms of developing your leadership and just being involved with. There's some affinity-related organizations, special interest clubs, and career-focused clubs you can pursue. And again, I mentioned again about our opportunities for you to kind of learn more about, building on your skills, but we have our career services office that does a lot to help students, again, learn more about various industries, professional skills, and then connecting with our alumni. Some of the organizations our alums have gone on to work at, this is just a few, but again, we have a significant number of students who do go into the private sector, believe it or not. Because of the quantitative nature of our program, we have a number of students who will go on and work in the private sector, sometimes in consulting, banking, believe it or not, analysts there. We have some students, again, working in the multilateral space, who want to work, say, at the UN or some of the multilateral organizations I mentioned, World Bank, IMF. And then again, I'm just going to put our website or email rather. You can contact us if you want more information, because I know we don't have much time, but again, we can talk more about the admissions process, fellowships, things like that we offer. So I'll stop there.
Thanks very much. Recognizing time constraints, I think what we'll do is I'll just collect a few questions, and if our program representatives want to take a swing at those the questions that we collect in a few minutes, I think that would be a good thing to do. And then we also have, I think that's what we'll do. And then we also have Alana, who was once in your shoes. She was a UCF undergrad who did an MA here, and who's now one of our PhD students. So are there questions that we can collect real quick? Yes.
Yeah, I would like to know, how does the admission team see reapplicants? So people who weren't accepted initially, but now reapply next year, for example. Do they see that as a benefit or something negative? And then,
Okay, great. Other questions? Yeah.
I'm kind of worrying about how it would transfer over, say, if you go one of these public policy degrees, and then later in my life, after working in the private sector, I decided I want like a generic political science PhD. If I would basically start from the beginning of the PhD program, or if that would transfer.
Okay. Yeah.
This kind of circles back to the GRE, but for the schools where it is optional, if you submit it anyways, it's kind of like a bonus, or is it really, they look at it like, oh, that's cool, they did that, but we don't really do that. Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Are there any age restrictions for the fellowships or scholarships?
Okay. Sydney, Ashley, David, anything you want to say for those questions?
I'll address the testing question. You should know that, at least I'm going to speak for myself, but in SAIS, that yes, we are test optional. We see that as an additional data point when we're going to evaluate candidates. Again, from a holistic admissions process, we're looking at personal experiences, attributes, what recommenders say about you. We do have optional interviews. Sometimes students will interview with us. And then academic metrics. Obviously, we're looking at your GPA as well as your test score. So it's all part of a holistic review process. I can't remember a time where somebody got dinged solely because of their test score. I just don't remember that. I just think that it's the entire package we take into consideration when you're submitting your application to us.
Thanks.
I'll add on to what Sydney just said is that we will consider the GRE or GMAT scores if you submit them, but they're not going to penalize. We're not going to penalize you or hold anything against you if you did not submit any. It's just like he said, we're going to take a look at everything that you submitted and take into consideration all of those materials. But I did want to say regarding readmission or reapplication. So we actually, if we feel that an applicant is on the verge of being admitted, we just like them to go out and maybe get some experience, mature a little bit, and come back and reapply. We'll encourage them to reapply. So applicants who reapply in the future, there's absolutely no bad feelings or anything bad considered regarding reapplying to the program. So that's absolutely a recommendation on a lot of parts. So.
And somebody mentions, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, David.
Okay. Yeah.
It's okay, Cindy, go.
Yeah, somebody was mentioning about, you're saying going into policy, public policy, and then thinking you want to transition out of that? Is that what, did I get that question right?
Well, yes, sir. I was saying, like, if I got the public policy degree, worked in the private sector, and then decided later that I wanted to go back to get a PhD and pursue a research career, if I would be starting from the beginning of the PhD, or if those credits transfer.
Oh, David, I'll let you answer that if you want to pursue that.
Yeah, I'm going to speak specifically for CMU. The courses that you're taking as a master's student are going to be good preparation for a PhD program, but they're not going to necessarily count towards or reduce the requirements for completing the PhD. I will say that earning the master's degree and gaining work experience and then going back to the PhD is great because it makes you a stronger applicant for the much more competitive PhD process. And as Sydney pointed out, or I'm sorry, Dr. Dolan, I think pointed out, like, PhDs that are fully funded are really the ones that you want to focus your attention on. And so therefore you need to set yourself apart in the applicant pool, and having the previous graduate education and the additional work experience are two ways that you can help set yourself apart in that process. And just to reiterate what everybody said about the GRE, we're looking at your coursework and at your test scores. Or if you don't have the coursework in the quantitative areas, then the GRE may be a good idea to kind of show you have that propensity or that acumen, even from your high school math. That's not a bad idea. But if you have the undergraduate coursework and you did well, the GRE may not be necessary, and each school may have a policy on that. But contact the offices, talk to the Sydneys and Ashleys and Davids that are out there to help you navigate that at each of the schools that are near the top of your list.
The only thing I would add on about the PhD is that I'm sure for most of these programs, it's very competitive. We take very few PhDs. Out of 100 applicants, I think we get 8. So a lot of times it's like you really need to do your research and connect with a faculty member in advance who you think is going to support you through the PhD program, because otherwise it's very hard just to get in some of these programs. We do have a practitioner's doctorate in international affairs, which is a little different. It's not for those who want to go in to teach, but be practitioners. So that's a little different. You may want to think about that, because there is a distinction between the PhD and, say, a doctorate in international affairs, which is more practitioner's degree.
Okay. Thank you very much. And especially thanks to Sydney, Ashley, David. Last person is Alana, who has been an outstanding student in several different capacities here at UCF, and who, as her background shows, also works at Lockheed Martin. So if you want to talk for a couple minutes, and then students, if you want to reach out to Sydney, Ashley, and David, I'm sure they would be happy to follow up. And if you need contact info, we can absolutely give that to you. Alana.
Yes, hello. Is there anything specific you kind of wanted me to touch on?
Just talk a little bit about your experience of being a graduate student and how it's been helpful, hopefully, and where it's taken you.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So hi, everyone. Like Dr. Dolan said, my name is Alana. So I did my undergraduate degrees at UCF, and I graduated from the master's program in 2019 with an MA in political science. And then I also did the intelligence and national security certificate. So where I work right now, I'm currently a senior intelligence analyst at Lockheed Martin. So private sector doing counterintelligence, which is a job I absolutely love. So during grad school, I was a graduate teaching assistant at UCF. So that was a wonderful position. Like Dr. Bowden mentioned earlier, I received a tuition waiver and then was paid basically to help with teaching responsibilities and grading for professors. So really great experience. I also was able to get an internship while I was in graduate school. So I interned with the Department of Defense underneath this agency called the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. So that was a really great experience for me. That was a paid internship, and it was in Huntsville, Alabama, which was great because that was a paid internship and an affordable place to live for the summer as well. And that was a really great internship experience. That really, I think, helped me get my foot in the door in terms of looking for jobs after I had finished that internship. And then once I graduated, I had a couple different job offers. That internship was also able to get me my first security clearance, which is definitely something that helps a lot. And I ended up at Lockheed Martin. So I've been here for almost 5 years now, working in security. And I am also part-time in the PhD program at UCF, working on my PhD in security studies. I'm very fortunate that I get tuition reimbursement through work for that. So I'm able to do the PhD funded part-time and work as well. I would say, I think for me, having a master's degree, those skills you learn in grad school are really helpful when it comes to looking for jobs and getting employment somewhere. So graduate school is a very different way of thinking and a very different way of learning than the courses you'll do in undergrad. So it's a lot more critical thinking skills, a lot of writing, and a lot of quantitative skills as well. If that's something you're interested in, you'll have the opportunity to do that in grad school. And I would say for me, those things have been very valuable. They definitely helped me get a job and land some interviews. And they've also really helped me in my professional career in terms of having those skill sets that I've kind of been able to bring to work. So overall, I think, grad school, honestly, a really great experience for me. I'm very glad I did it. I think it did help prepare me for the professional workforce, especially with those skills that I learned in graduate school that I may not necessarily have gotten through undergrad. And if you are ever thinking about a PhD as well, same thing, I would say that doing the program really helped me prepare for the PhD as well. Doing it part-time while I'm working is definitely challenging, but I think because I had that master's experience where I took those courses and I also did research, I did an MA thesis, I think that helped prepare me quite a bit for doing a PhD program, which is something that's really great because I think it would have been a lot harder to be successful in the PhD program had I not already had that experience from doing a master's degree.
Thanks very much. And Alana is about to be recognized as one of our top alumni soon. So she's definitely done well over this time. So thank you all for coming. Thank you to Ashley, Sydney, David, especially for your time today, and Andrew as well. I encourage people to reach out to them. They've put some information in the chat, which we'll put up here. And of course, you can look at them online. As I said, talk to faculty members. I'm available some of the time. Andrew is happy to talk about these things. And so frankly, are almost any faculty members in the department. So I encourage you to think about it and good luck.